this video, we are going to focus on how we can explore large-scale data analytics in Azure. The main focus of this data analytics will be on Azure Data Factory and Azure Synapse. We will provision Azure Synapse and pipelines inside the Azure Synapse, and we will see that how the data analytics works with that. Obviously, we need to first understand the data ingestion in Azure, and we need to understand the components like Azure Data Factory, where actually we're going to ingest the data. Describe the data processing options for performing analytics in Azure. So we will see that what kind of options are there, what kind of tools and utilities we need to understand for that. And then we will explore Azure Synapse Analytics, where actually the pipelines of Azure Synapse Analytics will be created and configured for ETL and ELT kind of transformations. Now, before we proceed with some practical demos, let's try to understand data ingestion in Azure. And the first thing which you need to understand in this is Azure Data Factory. ADF is a data ingestion and transformation service that allows you to load data, most of the time raw data, from many different sources, and even it will allow you to take data from on-premise computers. As it ingests the data, Data Factory can clean, transform, and restructure the data before loading it into the repository, such as a data warehouse, and then it's going to further processed. Once the data is in the data warehouse, you can analyze it using the features of data warehouse. The second option which you have is Polybase. Polybase is a feature of SQL Server and Azure Synapse Analytics that enables you to run transact SQL queries that read data from external data sources. Polybase makes this external data source appears like tables in SQL database itself. So you will get the feeling like you are writing a query there itself in the database. Using Polybase, you can read data managed by Hadoop, Spark, and Azure Blob Storage as well as other databases management systems like Cosmos DB, Oracle, Teradata, and even MongoDB can be integrated with Polybase. The third and the important feature is we have SSIS. I'm sure if you have used SQL Server, then you are familiar with SQL Server Integration Services, which is nothing but a platform for building enterprise-level data integration and data transformation solutions. Now, maybe in older days, if you have used SSIS, then you know what it is. And then in the modern days, people use SSIS integrated with Polybase and Azure Data Factory with that. You can use SSIS to solve complex business problems by copying or downloading the files, loading the data warehouse, cleaning the mining data, and maybe managing SQL database objects and the data which is associated with Microsoft SQL Server. SSIS is also a part of Microsoft SQL Server product. Now, let's try to understand the component of Azure Data Factory and how it is actually going to ingest data and process it. Azure Data Factory is having a service called link service. This link service is going to provide some kind of a connection to the various data sources, which can be data lake store, Azure Databricks, or even if you want to take simply a data from SQL Server, which is located on-premise. This link service will allow you to maintain a connection of these data sources and your data factory. After that, you are going to have some utility called dataset, which is actually going to allow you to refine the schema of your data which you're going to process. This is going to be that particular data which you have prepared from your raw data for further processing. The data which is coming from this kind of link services will be ingested into the pipeline of your Azure Data Factory. And inside the pipeline, you are going to have activities which will get executed and then it's going to process the data. Maybe there are multiple activities which are required in this process, and that's the reason set of multiple activities like this are going to be surrounded by one thing called pipeline. So these four words, pipeline, dataset, activities, and link services, are the most important four words for you if you want to understand basics of Azure Data Factory. The pipeline is going to get triggered by different kind of events, or maybe you can do the manual trigger of execution with this. The moment pipeline is going to get executed, the data transformation will happen. Each activity inside the pipeline will get executed one by one based on the flow which you have defined and following the guidelines of the dataset which is configured into that. And maybe after that, it can have customized things inside that. there are chances that your pipeline is going to use some parameters, some integration runtime, some control flows which are associated with that. And then according to that parameter, integration runtime and control flow configuration, pipeline execution will execute, which you can monitor with the help of the monitoring utility, which is also given inside Azure Data Factory. As we know, Azure Data Factory is going to do the data transformation from the raw data to some kind of a meaningful data. Just for your kind information guys, Azure Data Factory is available in Azure as a separate service, as well as if you are using Azure Synapse Analytics, then inside Azure Synapse Analytics, we have a tool called Synapse Pipeline, which is nothing but 100% Azure Data Factory. Whatever you can use inside Azure Data Factory, you can do the same kind of thing in Synapse Pipelines also. Other than Synapse Pipeline, Azure Synapse Analytics is actually a bunch of multiple products. And then it can additionally going to have Synapse SQL Pull, which is going to work like a dedicated data warehouse for the organized structured data. You are going to have Synapse Link, which allows you to connect with the Cosmos DB in most of the analytical transactional processing. You are going to have a tool called Synapse Studio, which will give you some kind of an integrated development environment where you can configure your databases, your pipelines, you can execute queries, and you also have something which is known as Apache Spark Pull, which formerly known as Synapse Spark, where you can execute your Spark queries, you can take care of your analytics with the help of Python, C#, or even languages like Ruby and Go. Ultimately, same like Azure Databricks, here also you can create notebooks which will have multiple cells inside that, and the compute for executing those notebooks will be provided by Azure Synapse Analytics. We will see all these things in our next demo, because exactly after this I want you to see Data Factory and Synapse Pipeline kind of things inside Azure Synapse Analytics, and let's have a look at this thing practically in our Azure portal. Hey guys, sorry for interruption. My name is Maruti and I'm here to make a very important announcement. I hope you are liking our videos and you're doing a continuous learning with us on an Azure Cloud and AI related topics. If you are enjoying this thing, I'm going to announce skilltech.club, which is our upcoming website, which is going to be launched very soon. We are here to tell you one thing, that everyone who is a subscriber of this particular channel will get Azure Cloud and Azure AI related certification courses free of cost in skilltech.club. So you will be a part of the skilltech.club kind of a membership automatically free of cost. And everyone who's a subscriber of this particular channel will get those benefits which are available in that. So what are you waiting for? I request you to please subscribe to this channel and share it with your friends and families if they are also interested in Azure Cloud and AI learning. That's it from my side. Now you can carry on with your learning. Thank you. Okay, so now it's the time to provision our Azure Synapse Analytics. Let me go to my Azure portal and I'm going to click on Create Resource, where if I go inside Analytics, I have Azure Synapse Analytics in that. Remember, same way you can provision Azure Databricks Analytics or even Azure Data Factory also. I am going to select Azure Synapse Analytics, which is a big service because it's going to have all the Synapse resources inside that. It's asking me that what kind of resource group and managed resource group you want to create here. Now we need to create two resource group in this case. I'm saying I'm going to create a new resource group, which is going to be DP-900RG. Like always, we created this one. And then I'm creating one more resource group, which is going to be managed DP-900RG. This managed resource group is actually useful for those resources which will associate with Synapse Workspace. So maybe you want to create some other managed resources later on. As of now, this is going to be empty once the provisioning and deployment of Synapse Workspace is done. What will be the name of this workspace? I'm giving a name like this is my Maruti Synapse Workspace, and then some number at the end I'm giving just for the uniqueness. The region for this I'm selecting East US, and then it is must that every Synapse Workspace is going to associate with Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. You are already familiar with the Azure Storage account. This is going to be very much similar to that, but with additional security, with additional hierarchical namespace, associated with this storage account where you can store blobs in the containers. So we are going to have Gen2 storage account. I do not have any Gen2 storage account as of now, so I'm going to create a new one. I'm giving a meaningful name like this is my Gen2 storage with some number at the end just for the uniqueness. And then inside this Gen2 storage, they are going to create a new container to store the blob data, and that is something which they call file system. So I'm going to give a name for that also, which is going to be my file system. That's it. And then I'm going to click on OK. Remember, because additional security is associated, they will automatically associate a data contributor role actually for my storage account inside this for the user who is associated with this particular account right now. And if I want to do this kind of role-based access control manually for Synapse, I can go into this links and I can see more details about that. I really don't want to change anything here. I'm happy with the default configuration. I'm going to click on next. Every Synapse workspace is going to have one serverless SQL pool associated with that. This serverless SQL is going to be like a SQL server where you can create some temporary databases, some kind of external data sources you can create, and then you can use analytical queries on that. So I have to provide some username and password for this SQL server, and let me just provide something meaningful. This will be useful if I want to connect to that SQL server later on. Do I need to enable some system assign manage identity permissions for this? Well, I don't want this right now, so I'm going with next. No need to change anything. We'll just click on review plus create, which will take me to the last and final page where hopefully my validation will pass. And then if it is passed, then I will click on create. Before create, I always check that what is an estimated cost for this. As I told you, there is a serverless SQL server pool which is going to be created here, and that's going to cost me around 360 rupees per month. This is a monthly okay, sorry, no, this is not a monthly, this is estimated cost per terabyte of data storage with that. So I think this is a enough very cheaper cost right now, so I'm okay with this, and I'm going to click on create. The moment you submit this deployment, it will take some time to provision the Synapse workspace because internally there are many things which are going to be deployed. So this is a point where I will just wait for the deployment should be done, and then once it is done, we will see how we can do the analytics with the Azure Synapse pipelines. And we will also focus on Azure Synapse Studio, which is some kind of a ready-made development environment kind of thing where you can do analytics, you can do querying, you can do all the customizations which are required for Synapse. Okay, now once the deployment is complete, you can see it's showing me go to resource group. And if I click on go to resource group, I can see that we have our storage account, which is going to be our Gen2 storage, and then we have a Synapse workspace. I'm going to open the Synapse workspace in the new tab, and in this tab I'm going inside my storage account. Inside the storage, same we have left side data storage options where container, file share, queues and tables are there. And inside the containers, I will have one container which is by default created with the name Maruti file system or something like that. This is the name which we have given while provisioning this Synapse workspace. Inside the container, we don't have anything, but yes, this is a different kind of container compared to normal storage account because you will have a role-based access control in this, plus you will have an access control list associated with some ready-made service principles associated with this Synapse workspace. So somehow, logically, this Gen2 storage is connected with the Synapse workspace, and you can keep data into this Gen2 storage account, and then you can load and transform the data into Synapse. If I go to my Azure Synapse workspace, there are so many things which I can see here in the details, like the SQL admin password, the serverless SQL pool is already available here because it's something which is part of the Synapse workspace during the deployment. If I want to create some dedicated SQL pool, some Apache Spark pool, or maybe some Data Explorer pool, I can create all of this by just clicking on these buttons and then going forward with the step-by-step configuration. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Open Synapse Studio link here, which will take me to a new tab altogether, which will give me a Synapse Studio. This is that workspace where you're actually going to work on Synapse, you're actually going to deal with the different parts of the Synapse workspace. You can see I have an options like data, which actually allows me to create a new databases, lake databases, which connects with the obviously data lake. We can also connect to the external data sources or integrate the data sets into this. We have a develop section, which allows me to create a new notebooks, which will run on Apache Spark. I can also generate new SQL scripts or KQL scripts for this particular Synapse workspace. I can click on integrate, and here I can create my new pipelines where I can do ETL, ELT kind of transformations. And I also have a couple of ready-made pipelines and notebooks available in the gallery. If I try to click on browse gallery and find out something from that, I can monitor all these processes of analytics into this monitor section, and whenever I run any pipeline or queries or any other associations, it will be visible here inside the monitoring utility. And last but not the least, we have a manage section where actually I can manage my link services, my pools, my security, and if I want to associate this thing with some kind of Git integration with the source control, or maybe I want to associate with some DevOps integration, all these things I can do here inside the manage. What I'm going to do is I am going into my storage account, and inside this storage account where I have one Maruti file system container, I'm going to upload one very simple. Let's say from my desktop, I just have one file called input.txt. I have just uploaded this file into this particular container actually, and I'm going to click on upload. You know that when we upload a file into this, it's going to be treated like a blob file. So this is a file which is just added here. It's a text file which is actually having some 38 bytes of content in this, and it's treated like a blob. If I select this file and if I show you the properties of that, I can show you that this is a file which is just going to have some simple comma separated values inside that. I have some first name, comma, last name kind of comma separated values. 3 records are there inside this. And then this is a very simple text file which is there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to associate this text file and this container with my Synapse workspace, and I'm going to do this thing inside Synapse pipeline. So let me go to my integrate section. I'm going to click on plus pipeline. So I'm going to create a new pipeline. They're giving me a default name for the pipeline, which is pipeline 1. I'm okay with that. And now this is a place where actually I have a section. As we discussed earlier, a pipeline can have multiple activities inside that. So I have a section of activities here from which I can select one of the activity, one or more activities, and then I can just do my transformational logic based on that. Like I have some Synapse activity, some move and transform activity, some activities from Databricks, some activities from HD inside, and some activities from Azure functions are also available here. Let me take a very simple activity right now, which is copy data. Obviously, this allows me to copy data from one place to another place. And when I want to do this thing, I need to understand the other features of this Synapse pipeline, like link services, data set and all. Because obviously, if I want to connect this particular pipeline with my data set, I need to associate some kind of link service. I need to associate some table schema in data set. All these configurations I'm going to do right now. Pipeline 1 is there. I'm going to collapse this section so I have enough space on the screen. And then let's say this copy data activity, you can see is having 2 sections here, source and sink. Source is like from where you want to get data, and sink is like a target where you want to put the data in this copy activity. I'm going to click on source, and then it's saying that where is your source data set? You do not have any data sets right now. Why don't you just click on plus new and create it? I'm going to click on plus new, and it's asking me, okay, fine, you're going to create a new integration data set, but tell me what kind of data set you're looking for. From the list of these data sets, I'm going to select that I'm going to look for Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, because this is what my data source is all about. I'm selecting this. I'm going to click on continue. And then they're also asking me what kind of format you have for your data actually. I have a data which is comma separated value, CSV, comma separated values are there in this text file, which I know. So I'm selecting this one. It can be any other format. If you want to try that, you can try it by yourself. I'm selecting CSV and I'm going to click on continue. Now the moment I do this, this is going to be my data set. I'm giving a name of this thing delimited text underscore input data set. This is my input data set. And then where is this data actually located? I need to configure that thing with the link service. I do not have any link service right now, but I can click on plus new, and then I can say this is going to be my Azure Data Lake Storage 1 underscore link service. This is going to be my link service. And then I need to choose my subscription. I need to choose my storage account, which is my Gen 2 storage account. And then if I click on test connection, it is going to show me connection successful. It means I have a valid access on this. And then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on create. When we click on create, this is going to give me a new link service creation done. It's showing me successfully created a new link service. And now because I'm connected with the storage account, if I try to browse, I am able to get my file system. Is nothing but a name of the container which I have created, and inside that I'm getting that file also which I have uploaded in that container. I'm selecting my input.txt and I'm going to click on OK. This is like I have created one data set, which is input data set, and I'm saying I'm going to get data from this particular location and from this particular file. I can click on advanced and I'm going to say open this data set. This is going to save the data set and it's going to show me that yes, your data set configuration is loaded and this is your input data set which you have configured. Fine. Going back to the previous tab, which is pipeline 1, and now source configuration is done. I need to specify where is a sync configuration, and it means like where exactly I want to put this data that I can configure here. You can see that data set for input is already configured. Obviously there is no data set for output, so I need to configure that now, and I'm going to click on plus new only. So I'm going to click on plus new. This data set can be something else other than storage account. Like maybe I want to take data from storage account, but I want to put it into a SQL database, or maybe I want to put it into some on-premise SQL database. All those things are possible. I am going to select the same one right now. I'm going to select same one, which is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2, and then I'm going to click on continue. I will select delimited text CSV, the same, everything same we are selecting here. The name of the dataset is going to be delimited text output dataset. This is going to be my output dataset which will hold the final structure. I can create a new link service if it's a different data source, but this is the same location where I want to put it actually. So I'm going to click on same link service, and then where exactly I want to put this thing. I am saying that I want to put this thing in the same file path. So it's like the same container I'm going to select actually. But inside this container, I want to specify some dynamic content for this directory and file system. So like I want that inside the container, I should have a folder called output, inside which the output data should be there. And then the name of the file, I do not want input.txt. I want something like output.txt. So again, this is something which is a hard-coded name right now. If I want to generate this dynamically, that is also something which I can do with parameters and all. But I'm selecting simple name here, output folder with output.txt will be there. I'll click on advanced and I'll click on open this data set, which will save this. Now they are showing me that some error here. They are saying that, you know, this operation is returning invalid status code because there is no directory called output, there is no directory called output.txt. This kind of errors are very common because when you're configuring dataset, they actually check for those values. I'll keep these two things empty right now, and then I click on open this dataset. And now once this is open for the output, I am going to specify that now this is a time where I want to specify some dynamic content for this. You can see here, I'm going to click on this directory name, which is output. And then now, in spite of giving some hard-coded value like output.txt, I just want to say that I want to add a dynamic content. And this dynamic content is going to be automatically generated when you actually run your pipeline. I am going to search for one function called concat. And using the concat function, let's say I'm saying that I want to concat. There is a property called @pipeline dot run id. this run ID is actually going to be a property which is a unique ID associated with the pipeline. So I'm just specifying pipeline.run ID is going to be fetched from this executing pipeline, which is going to be unique ID. And then I want to concat this with .txt. So that's going to be my full file name, some unique ID .txt. And this gives me a surety also that if I run this pipeline more than one time, every time a new ID will be generated and every time a new file will be created. I'm going to click on OK. My concat dynamic content is already there. And in order to check this, I'm going to click on validate all. If everything is fine, it's going to show me that no errors were found. Cool. I'm going to click on publish all, and then it's saying that what I have created, one pipeline and two data set, will be published right now. I'm okay with that. I clicked on publish, and then I think it's going to take a few seconds to publish this. Let's wait for this to be done. Yes, publishing is completed successfully, and if that is true, let me check whether this pipeline is running or not. So I'll go to my pipeline 1, and there is an option here called add trigger. You can run your pipelines with triggers, and that's where I'm going to click on trigger now. This will take me to one page where it's showing me that, okay, you want to run the pipeline, you can just trigger it. I can click on OK, and that's going to start the execution of my pipeline. That's actually going to run the pipeline right now. While this is running, we can also have a look at the monitoring part right now. But let me check if this is successfully done, then I'll show you the monitoring part after that. It's going to take a few seconds to run this. Yes, it is done. It's showing me pipeline execution is successfully done. It means the configuration which I've done is working fine. Let me go back to my container, which is here in the storage account. I'll refresh this, and if I do that, I am getting a folder created inside the container called output. Inside the output, I have one file name which is pipeline.runid.txt. I think the concatenation is not happening with the run ID properly. Let me see what is wrong in that. But yes, this is fine. If I click on this file should have a content of that same file. You can see the same content is coming from input.txt. I need to check this pipeline.runid, so because I want this should be fetched from the unique ID of that particular pipeline. So let me just quickly correct it. Maybe some codes I have done which is wrong. So I think let me go to my Synapse Studio. This is how we do all the configuration actually. Let me go to my output dataset, and I think the mistake which I've done is this pipeline.runid should not be there in single quote, I guess, because this is something which is a unique property. It should not be there in the quotes, I guess. And I guess if there is no code, then this iterate is also not required. So this is going to be pipeline, which is going to be treated like function .run ID, and then the .txt will be associated with this. So this is like going to associate with the current pipeline, and then it's going to take the run ID from that. Make sure when you type this, R and I should be capital because that's a predefined property. I'll click on OK, and then I'm going to publish this. The new changes will be published into that, and then I'm going to run it once again the same way I did first time. Let me run this once again. Yes, publishing is completed. I'll go to pipeline 1. I'll click on trigger now. Okay, it's running again second time. Now obviously this is a second time execution, so after this if I go to monitoring, then I will be able to see all the successful and failed run into that. So let's see that thing. Yep, succeeded. I'm going to my output folder once again, and I'm going to refresh it. If I refresh for the second execution, I got a proper file name. This is a unique ID .txt. And where can I see this ID? Well, if I go to my monitoring panel, which is at the left side column, I can see that my two successful executions are there, and I think this one is the newer one. So it's like reverse sorted is there. And if I go inside this pipeline is having a run ID, which is starting with 67C99, some unique ID with that. And I think this is the same ID which is my file name now. If I run it once again, a new ID will be generated, and that will be dynamically associated with this particular file. And this is how we can use parameters, we can use dynamic content, we can use some other configurations while the pipeline is executing. If I move my mouse on this monitoring panel, I have some glasses kind of icon there in this bottom, and that is going to show me what exactly happened. It's showing me that you have taken the data from Gen 2 storage and you have added this thing into another same location actually, and 38 bytes of data is transferred from here to there. The total time taken for that, the throughput which is used for this, all those things are visible in monitoring, which gives me a crystal clear clarity that what exactly happened when I executed the pipeline run. So in this video, we have seen that how a large-scale data analytics can be done in Azure Cloud. We have focused on Azure Synapse analytics, and we have created some Synapse pipeline in the demo of this particular lecture.